Commander Samuel Hayes sat alone in his cell on the neutral space station Harmonia. A room was small and cold, with just a thin bed and a toilet. The blue force field that served as a door hummed softly, the only sound besides his breathing. Through it, he could see two Zelkari guards standing watch. Their scaled skin shimmered under the harsh lights, and their 4 eyes never seemed to blink. Samuel rubbed his face with his hands. 3 days had passed since his arrest. 3 days. Since he had been dragged from the bridge of his ship, the UEA Defender, and charged with bombing a civilian settlement. 3,000 Zelkari dead, they claimed. And they said he gave the order, but he didn't. He knew he didn't. The evidence is clear, Commander Hayes, the tribunal spokesperson had said at his initial hearing. The aliens' multiple mouths moved in unpleasant harmony. Orbital footage shows UEA vessels firing on the settlement. Communication logs contain your voice giving the fire order. Multiple witnesses place you on the planet during the attack. Samuel closed his eyes. None of it made sense. He had been on his ship the entire time. The UEA Defender hadn't fired a single shot, and he had never set foot on Thero 7 before his arrest. A soft beep announced a visitor. Samuel looked up to see a young woman in a UE, a diplomatic uniform, standing beside one of the guards. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept much. 5 minutes, the guard growled, lowering the force field just enough to let her slip through. Commander Hayes, she said, straightening her posture. I'm Olivia Wright. I've been assigned as your counsel for the trial. Samuel stood up. You're my lawyer? No offense, but where's the senior diplomatic team? This is an interstellar incident. Olivia's face tightened. There isn't one coming. The UEA has limited their involvement in your defense. They're hanging me out to dry, Samuel said, the truth dawning on him. The peace treaty with the Zelkari is too important. I'm afraid so, Olivia admitted. The official position is that they're conducting their own investigation while respecting the tribunal's process. Samuel paced the small cell. It's all false, every bit of it. I wasn't planetside. We didn't fire on any settlements. Someone has set this up. The evidence they've presented is compelling, Olivia said, opening a thin folder. They have footage, communication logs, witnesses. Fabricated, Samuel interrupted. All of it. Olivia studied his face. I believe you, Commander. But believing won't be enough. The tribunal includes 17 different species, each with their own standards of justice. Most of them already think humans are dangerous and unpredictable. This case only confirms what they want to believe. Samuel sat back down on the bed. What are my chances? Olivia hesitated. If the trial were today, you would be sentenced to the void cells on Draconis Prime. For life, the void cells. Samuel had heard stories. Prisoners kept in suspended animation, conscious but unable to move for decades. Some said it was worse than death. I need you to tell me everything, Olivia said, pulling out a small recording device. Every detail about your movements, your crew, anything unusual in the days leading up to the incident. For the next few minutes, Samuel recounted his ship's patrol route along the border of Zelkari space, the routine communications, the uneventful shifts. Nothing stood out as suspicious. The guard tapped on the energy field. 1 minute. Olivia gathered her notes. I'll do everything I can, Commander. The preliminary hearing is in 3 days. After that, we'll have 2 weeks to prepare our defense for the full trial. As she turned to leave, the force field dimmed again. Another visitor entered, an older man with gray hair and a weathered face. He wore civilian clothes, but carried himself like military. This isn't authorized, the guard protested. The man flashed some kind of badge. Special envoy status. Check your terminal. The guard consulted his device. and reluctantly nodded. "Who are you?" Samuel asked as the stranger approached. "Frank Daniels, retired UEA intelligence." He glanced at Olivia. "Good. I hope to meet both of you. How did you get in here?" Olivia asked. Frank smiled slightly. "I still have friends in useful places. Listen carefully. We don't have much time." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "I've been tracking some unusual Zilkari military movements for the past month. When I heard about your case, something didn't add up." "You believe I'm innocent?" Samuel asked. "I know you are," Frank replied. The settlement that was destroyed had been quietly evacuated 2 days before the attack. Only political dissidents remained. Samuel and Olivia exchanged glances. "That wasn't in any of the reports," Olivia said. "Of course not," Frank replied, "because this wasn't about killing civilians. It was about eliminating opposition and blaming humans for it. I believe Warlord Krender is behind this." Krender? Samuel knew the name. A high-ranking Zelkari military leader known for his anti-human stance. "But why frame me specifically? Your ship was the closest to Thero 7. You've had run-ins with Zelkari patrols before. You were the perfect scapegoat." Frank pulled a small data chip from his pocket. "This contains what I've gathered so far. It's not enough for a defense, but it's a start." Olivia took the chip. "How do I know I can trust you?" Frank's expression hardened. "Because if Hayes goes down for this, the peace treaty will collapse anyway. Krender will use this incident to push for a war the UEA isn't ready for." The guard approached. "Time's up." Frank stepped back. "I'll be in touch, and be careful who you trust. Krender has agents everywhere, even among humans." As Frank left, Samuel turned to Olivia. "What do you think?" She clutched the data chip tightly. "I think we have a lot of work to do and very little time." After Olivia departed, Samuel returned to his bed. Outside his cell, the station continued its busy routine. Aliens of various species walked past, some glancing at him with curiosity, others with undisguised hatred. For the first time since his arrest, Samuel felt a small spark of hope. He wasn't alone anymore. But as night cycle began and the corridor lights dimmed, Samuel wondered if 3 people, a disgraced commander, a junior diplomat, and a retired spy could really stand against the might of a Zelkari warlord and a galactic tribunal that seemed ready to convict him before the trial even began. Tomorrow, he would start fighting back. Tomorrow, they would begin to uncover the truth. Samuel closed his eyes, but sleep didn't come easily. In his mind, he kept seeing the images they had shown him. The burning settlement, the bodies, the destruction he was accused of causing. Someone had gone to great lengths to frame him. He needed to know why. Olivia Wright sat in a small room that the station manager had grudgingly provided as a temporary office. Data screens surrounded her, displaying evidence files, star maps, and Zelkari legal codes. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep. For 3 days, she had been studying the materials Frank Daniels had given her, searching for anything that might help Samuel. The door slid open, and Frank walked in carrying 2 cups of steaming liquid. "You look terrible," he said, placing 1 cup in front of her. "Drink this. It's not coffee, but it has similar effects." Olivia took a cautious sip. The drink tasted like bitter chocolate mixed with something spicy. "Thanks, I think." Frank pulled up a chair. "Any progress?" "Some." Olivia pointed to one of the screens. "I've been analyzing the communication logs where Samuel supposedly gave the order to fire. Listen to this." She played the recording. Samuel's voice came through clearly. "This is Commander Hayes. Target the settlement. No survivors. Now listen." "Again," Olivia said, adjusting some settings. "But this time, pay attention to the background noise." Frank leaned closer as the recording played again. His eyes narrowed. There's no ship noise. Exactly, Olivia nodded. I've served on 3 different space vessels. Every ship has a unique ambient sound engines, life support, computers. It's always there in the background of communications. But this recording is too clean. It's fake, Frank concluded. I think so, Olivia agreed. But proving it will be difficult. And it's just one piece of evidence against us. Frank pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. A hologram appeared, showing the Theros 7 system. I've been looking into the orbital footage, he said. The Zelkari claim it shows you, a ships firing on the settlement. But watch this. The hologram zoomed in, showing several ships in orbit around a planet. Bright lines extended from the ships to the surface. These are supposedly UEA weapons signatures, Frank explained. But the energy pattern is wrong. UEA plasma cannons have a distinct pulse frequency. These are continuous beams. Zelkari weapons? Olivia asked. Not standard ones, Frank replied. But Warlord Krender's Cercinal fleet has been rumored to have experimental weapon systems. Olivia added this information to her notes. It's still not enough. We need more. I've been working on the witness testimonies too, Frank said. 17. Zelkari claim they saw Samuel on the planet during the attack. How is that possible when he never left his ship? Frank smiled grimly. That's the interesting part. I had a friend analyze the language patterns in their statements. 15 of them use identical phrasing in key sections. They were coached. Olivia felt a surge of hope. That's huge. If we can prove witness tampering, it gets better, Frank interrupted. 2 of the witnesses weren't even on Theros 7 when the attack happened. They were on a trade mission to the Centauri colonies. I have customs records to prove it. For the first time since taking the case, Olivia felt they might have a chance. But doubt quickly returned. Even with all this, we're facing a tribunal of 17 different species. Many of them don't process information the same way humans do. The Vox communicate through light patterns. The Araxi think in mathematical sequences. How do we present this complex case in a way they'll all understand? Before Frank could answer, Olivia's communication device buzzed. I have permission to visit Samuel again. We should update him. The cell block was quieter today. As they approached Samuel's cell, Olivia noticed a tall, thin alien with pale blue skin standing guard instead of the usual Zelkari. A Phyrexian. Frank whispered. Interesting. The Phyrexian guard nodded as they approached. You may enter. I will give you privacy. He lowered the force field and stepped away. Samuel looked better than during their last visit. His face was shaved, and some color had returned to his cheeks. I've been allowed to exercise, he explained, noticing Olivia's surprise. The new guard, Zoltek, arranged it. Can we trust him? Frank asked. Samuel shrugged. More than the others, I think. He actually talks to me. Yesterday, he mentioned something odd about the settlement that was attacked. What did he say? Olivia leaned forward. That most residents had been relocated before the bombing. Only those who refused to leave were killed. Frank nodded. That matches what I found. The victims were primarily political dissidents who opposed Krender's military faction. Samuel stood up and began pacing. So Krender kills his opponents, blames humans, and pushes for war. But why now? The peace treaty, Olivia suggested. The final provisions are scheduled to be signed next month. This could derail everything. We need more proof, Samuel said. Something concrete that links Krender to the attack. Frank's expression became serious. I might have a way to get that, but it's risky. I have an old contact in the Zelkari Defense Ministry. If I can reach her, she might be able to access Krender's ship logs. That's dangerous, Olivia warned. If you're caught, I won't be, Frank assured her. I was doing this kind of work before either of you were born. Samuel stopped pacing. Even if we get all the evidence, we still face the challenge of presenting it to the tribunal. 17 species, 17 different ways of processing information. Olivia thought for a moment. What if we created a presentation that adapts to each species? Something visual for the Vox, mathematical for the Auraxi, narrative for the Turellians. A multisensory PowerPoint, Samuel said with a slight smile. It sounds crazy enough to work. PowerPoint? Frank looked confused. An ancient human presentation tool, Samuel explained. It's still taught in basic officer training as a fundamental communication method. The principle is simple: break complex information into digestible pieces, use visual aids, and guide your audience through a logical progression. Olivia felt excitement building. We could adapt it for interspecies communication. I studied xenolinguistics before joining the diplomatic corps. With the right approach, we could create something that speaks to each tribunal member in their native cognitive language. It would take a lot of work, Frank cautioned. We have 2 weeks until the full trial, Olivia replied. If you can get us the evidence, Samuel and I can build the presentation. As they discussed details, the Phyrexian guard, Zaltek, returned. You must leave now. The Zelkari delegates are coming for an inspection. As they prepared to go, Zaltek lowered his voice. I heard what you said about the settlement. It is true. My cousin's mate was stationed on Thero 7 as a medical officer. 3 days before the attack, they received orders to evacuate loyal citizens. It was unusual. Would your cousin's mate testify? Olivia asked hopefully. Zaltak's face darkened. She died in an accident 2 days after the attack. I'm sorry, Samuel said. As am I, Zoltak replied. Perhaps that is why I'm helping you. Too many accidents lately. He glanced down the corridor. Go now, quickly. As they left, Olivia felt both hope and fear. They had leads, potential evidence, and the beginning of a strategy. But they were also facing powerful enemies who had already killed to cover their tracks. The real work was just beginning. Frank Daniels hadn't slept in 36 hours. He sat in the darkest corner of a run-down bar on the lower levels of Harmonia Station. This area catered to the station's service workers, the cleaners, maintenance crews, and cargo handlers. Few officials or diplomats ever came here, which made it perfect for Frank's purpose. He checked the time again. His contact was late. That wasn't a good sign. Just as he was considering leaving, a hooded figure slipped into the seat across from him. Green scales showed briefly at the edge of the hood. You are either very brave or very foolish, Frank Daniels, a female voice said softly. Probably both, Sira, Frank replied. Thank you for coming. The Zelkari female pushed back her hood slightly, revealing 2 of her 4 eyes. I risk much meeting you. Krender has eyes everywhere. I wouldn't have contacted you if it wasn't important. Sira made a clicking sound that Frank recognized as Zelkari laughter. You always say that. What do you need? Access to Krender's ship logs from the day of the Thero 7 attack. Sira's scales darkened, a sign of alarm. Impossible. Those records are encrypted with the highest security protocols. You're the Deputy Communications Director for the Zelkari fleet. If anyone can access them, it's you. Why do you need these logs? Sira asked. A human commander has been framed for the attack. The evidence suggests Krender is behind it. Sira was quiet for a long moment. The settlement that was destroyed. My clutch sister's offspring lived there. They opposed Krender's policies. All of them died in the attack. Frank reached across the table, but stopped short of touching her. Zelkari didn't appreciate physical contact with other species. I'm sorry, Sira. Many families lost members that day. Krender called them traitors. Said they deserved their fate. But to blame humans? Her scales rippled with emotion. It dishonors their memory. Will you help us? Sira closed all four of her eyes briefly. I cannot directly access his logs, but there might be another way. All fleet communications are routed through Central Command, even Krender is encrypted. Channels. I could search for transmission patterns, ship locations during that time period. That would be extremely helpful. I will need 3 days, Sira said, standing up. Meet me here again. And Frank ... be careful. There are rumors that a human prisoner will not live to see his trial. Frank felt cold. What do you mean? Krender's supporters believe the human should have an accident ... before more questions are asked. Sira pulled her hood back up. Protect your commander friend. His life is in danger. Olivia sat with Samuel in his cell, surrounded by data. Pads. Since their last meeting, she had convinced the tribunal to allow Samuel access to basic technology to help prepare his defense. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. We've made progress on the presentation, Olivia said, showing Samuel a rough outline. I've studied the sensory processing systems of each tribunal species. The Vox perceive information through light patterns, so we'll use specific color sequences for them. The Araxi think in mathematical terms, so we'll include formula representations. Samuel looked impressed. What about the Turellians? They process information through narrative structures, right? Exactly. For them, we'll frame everything as a story with clear cause and effect. Olivia swiped to the next screen. And for the Quantari, who think in probabilities, will include statistical analyses of each piece of evidence. Samuel studied the outline. This is brilliant, Olivia. But we still need the evidence itself. Frank is working on that. He's meeting with a Zelkari contact today. The cell door slid open, and Zoltak entered. The Phyrexian guard looked nervous. I must speak with you, quickly. Olivia and Samuel exchanged glances. What's wrong? Samuel asked. I overheard 2 Zelkari security officers talking. There is a plan to have you killed before the trial. They will make it look like you tried to escape. Samuel's face went pale. When? Tomorrow. During the night cycle. Zoltek glanced over his shoulder. I can help you. My shift ends before the night cycle begins, but I can tamper with the security sensors in this section. It will not stop them, but it will give you warning when they come. Thank you, Samuel said sincerely. After Zoltek left, Olivia tried to keep her voice steady. We need to tell Frank. If they're planning to kill you, it means we're getting close to something important. Or it means Krender is tying up loose ends. Samuel replied grimly. Frank arrived at Olivia's temporary office out of breath. We have a problem. Krender's people are planning to kill Samuel tonight. We know, Olivia said. Zoltak warned us. He's going to help by giving us advance warning. Frank shook his head. That won't be enough. We need to move Samuel somewhere safe. The entire station is crawling with Zelkari security, Olivia protested. Where could we possibly hide him? Frank's expression was serious. We don't hide him. We move him to the one place they can't touch him, the Earth Alliance Embassy section. But the Earth Alliance has all but abandoned him, Olivia argued. They won't protect him. They will if they understand what's really at stake. Frank pulled out a communication device. I still have some friends in high places. People who will listen if I can get them the right information. While Frank made his calls, Olivia continued working on their presentation. Without hard evidence, it was still just a theory. But the attempt on Samuel's life confirmed they were on the right track. Hours later, Frank returned looking satisfied. It's arranged. A UEA security team will transfer Samuel to the embassy section for additional questioning before the night cycle begins. How did you manage that? Olivia asked, amazed. I reached Admiral Peter Clark. We served together years ago. When I explained what was happening, he agreed to help unofficially. Frank checked the time. They'll be moving Samuel within the hour. What about the evidence? Did your contact come through? Frank nodded. Sira is working on it. She can't access Krender's logs directly, but she's looking for communication patterns and ship locations during the attack. She needs 3 days. The trial is in 10 days, Olivia said. That should give us enough time to incorporate her findings into the presentation. If Samuel lives that long, Frank reminded her, even in the embassy section, he won't be completely safe. Krender has spies everywhere, even among humans. Olivia looked at the work they had done so far. We're close to something big. I can feel it. Why else would they be so desperate to silence Samuel? Because if we prove Krender framed a human for war crimes, it won't just save Samuel. It could expose a conspiracy that goes deep into the Zelkari military. Frank's expression was grim. And some people will do anything to prevent that from happening. As they gathered their materials to meet the security team, Olivia felt a mix of hope and fear. They were making progress, but powerful forces were working against them. The next few days would determine not just Samuel's fate, but possibly the future of human Zelkari relations, and it all depended on a presentation that could make 17 different alien species understand a complex human concept, reasonable doubt. Samuel paced the small room in the Earth Alliance Embassy section. It was larger than his cell, but still felt confining. At least here he had a real bed, a desk, and access to basic technology. Most importantly, he was alive. The UEA security team had arrived just in time. As they were escorting him out, Zaltak had warned them that 3 armed Zelkari were approaching from another corridor. The timing had been too perfect to be coincidence. If Frank hadn't arranged the transfer, Samuel would likely be dead. A soft knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Olivia entered, carrying several datapads. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Better than I was in that cell," Samuel replied. "Any news?" Olivia placed the datapads on the desk. "Frank is meeting with his contact again today. We're hoping. She has the evidence we need. And the presentation? Coming along well. I've been working with a UEA communications specialist to refine the sensory translations for each species." Olivia activated one of the datapads, displaying a complex flowchart. "This is the basic structure. We start with the timeline of events, then branch into different evidence categories: the audio analysis, the weapons signature comparison, and the witness testimony inconsistencies." Samuel studied the flowchart. "It's impressive. But will it be enough?" "That depends on what Frank's contact provides," Olivia admitted. "Without hard evidence linking Krender to the attack, we're still working with circumstantial connections." The door opened again, and Frank walked in. He looked exhausted but excited. "Sira came through," he announced, holding up a small data chip. She couldn't access Krender as direct logs, but she found something possibly better. Samuel and Olivia moved closer as Frank inserted the chip into a reader. A holographic display appeared above the desk, showing a star map of the Thera system. "This is a record of all ship movements in the sector during the day of the attack," Frank explained. "Official records show no Zelkari military vessels near Thera 7 at that time." "What?" Samuel prompted. But Sira discovered anomalies in the sensor network. Brief gaps in coverage lasting exactly 7 minutes each. And they occur in a pattern, moving across the system. Frank manipulated the display, highlighting several areas. "These gaps follow a straight line from the Zelkari border directly to Thera 7, then back again." Olivia leaned forward. "Cloaked ships?" "That's what Sira believes," Frank confirmed. "And here's the key part, the only Zelkari vessels equipped with that level of cloaking technology are in Krender's Special Operations Fleet. Samuel felt a surge of hope. This is good, but is it enough? They could argue the sensor gaps were just technical glitches. There's more, Frank continued. Sira also found communication records. During those exact same time periods, there were encrypted transmissions sent on a frequency reserved for Krender's personal use. Can she decrypt them? Olivia asked. Frank shook his head. No, but she did find something odd about them. Each transmission was preceded by a specific authentication code, and that same code appears in the communication logs, supposedly linking you to the attack. Samuel's eyes widened. So whoever created the fake recording of my voice used Krender's authentication code by mistake? Exactly, Frank said. A small error, but a critical one. It creates a direct link between the forged evidence and Krender's communication system. Olivia immediately began working on one of the data pads. This is perfect for the Quantari section of our presentation. They understand patterns and statistical anomalies. We can show them the mathematical impossibility of this being coincidence. As they worked to incorporate the new evidence, another knock came at the door. IUE, a security officer, entered. Commander Hayes, the tribunal has moved up your trial date. They will hear your case tomorrow. Samuel felt the blood drain from his face. Tomorrow? That's a week earlier than scheduled. The officer looked uncomfortable. The Zelkari delegation pushed for it. They claim new evidence has emerged that requires immediate attention. After the officer left, Frank slammed his fist on the desk. Krender must have learned about Sira's activities. He's trying to rush the trial before we can present our defense properly. Can we ask for more time? Samuel asked. Olivia shook her head. The tribunal's decision is final. We have until tomorrow morning to finish our presentation. They worked through the night, fueled by determination and artificial stimulants. Frank integrated Sira's evidence into their case. Olivia fine-tuned the sensory translations for each tribunal species. Samuel focused on the technical aspects, ensuring the weapons analysis would be clear even to non-military minds. As the station's night cycle ended, they gathered around the completed presentation. It was unlike anything any of them had seen before. A combination of visual displays, mathematical formulas, narrative structures, and sensory patterns, all designed to convey the same information in ways each species could understand. Will it work? Samuel asked, voicing the question they were all thinking. It has to, Olivia replied. It's the most advanced cross-species communication tool ever created. If this doesn't convince them, nothing will. Frank checked the time. The tribunal convenes in 3 hours. You should rest while you can, Samuel. Today will be challenging. Samuel nodded, but knew he wouldn't sleep. In just a few hours, his fate would be decided. And it all rested on a presentation tool that humans had been using for centuries. As Frank and Olivia left to make final preparations, Samuel thought about the irony. Throughout his career, he had sat through countless PowerPoint briefings, often bored and distracted. He had never imagined that one day such a presentation would determine whether he spent the rest of his life in a void cell. He opened the final version of their defense on his datapad, reviewing each section one more time. They had done everything possible to make the complex evidence understandable to 17 different alien species. Now they could only hope that somewhere in the universe, the concept of justice translated across all languages. 2 hours later, a security team arrived to escort Samuel to the tribunal chamber. As he walked through the corridors of Harmonia Station, he noticed the stares from aliens of various species. News of his trial had spread throughout the station. Ready? Olivia asked, meeting him outside the chamber doors. She looked tired but determined. Samuel straightened his uniform. As ready as I'll ever be. The massive doors swung open, revealing a circular room with tiered seating. Representatives of 17 spacefaring species looked down at him from all sides. In the center stood a single platform where he would present his defense dot. As Samuel stepped forward, he felt the weight of not just his own fate, but potentially the future of human-alien relations resting on his shoulders, and on one remarkably evolved PowerPoint presentation. The tribunal chamber fell silent as Samuel took his position on the central platform. 17 representatives from different spacefaring species looked down at him from their elevated seats. The room was designed to intimidate, and it worked. In the front row of the observation area, Samuel could see Frank and Olivia. Behind them sat a group of Zelkari officials. One of them, dressed in elaborate military regalia, had to be Warlord Krender. The Zelkari's scales seemed to shimmer with anticipation. The Chief Justice, a tall Melodian with silvery skin, stood. Commander Samuel Hayes of Earth, you stand accused of ordering the bombardment of a civilian settlement on Thero 7, resulting in the deaths of 3,000 Zelkari citizens. How? Do you plead? Not guilty, Samuel said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. The prosecution may present their case, the Chief Justice announced. A Zelkari lawyer stepped forward. For the next hour, he presented the evidence against Samuel, the orbital footage, the communication logs, the witness testimonies. The presentation was straightforward but effective. Several tribunal members nodded as they watched. When the prosecutor finished, the Chief Justice turned to Samuel. Commander Hayes, you may now present your defense. Samuel took a deep breath. Everything depended on the next hour. Honored members of the tribunal, he began, I stand before you accused of a terrible crime I did not commit. With your permission, I have prepared a presentation that will demonstrate my innocence. The Chief Justice nodded. Proceed. Samuel activated the holographic system. Instantly, the chamber transformed. A timeline appeared in the air, showing the events before, during, and after the attack on Thero 7. I will show you 3 key pieces of evidence that prove my innocence and reveal who is truly responsible for this tragedy. As Samuel spoke, the presentation adapted to each tribunal member's species. For the Vox, specific color patterns highlighted important points. For the Auraxi, mathematical formulas appeared. For the Terrellians, a narrative structure guided them through the evidence. Each species received the information in the way they understood best. First, the communication logs containing my voice giving the attack order are forgeries. Samuel played the recording, then demonstrated the absence of background ship noise. All ship communications contain ambient sounds. These recordings are suspiciously clean. The presentation showed sound wave patterns, highlighting the unnatural qualities of the forged message. For the Quantari, probability calculations appeared, showing the statistical impossibility of a genuine ship recording having these characteristics. Several tribunal members leaned forward with interest. Second, the weapon signatures in the orbital footage do not match Earth Alliance technology. The presentation displayed a side-by-side comparison of UEA weapon energy patterns versus those seen in the footage. Our weapons produce pulsed energy. The weapons used on Thero 7 fired continuous beams. For the crystalline Vox, this section included light pattern demonstrations of the different energy signatures. For the Sesic, heat pattern differentials were displayed. The tribunal chamber had grown completely silent. Even the Zelkari observers were watching intently. Finally, and most importantly, we have discovered evidence directly linking these attacks to Warlord Krender's Special Operations Fleet. A murmur ran through the chamber. Krender stood up abruptly, but a guard motioned for him to sit down. Samuel displayed the star map showing the sensor gaps. On the day of the attack, multiple sensor gaps occurred in a straight line from the Zelkari border to Theros 7 and back. These gaps are consistent with the movement of cloaked vessels. The presentation showed the pattern moving across the system, with timestamps matching the attack. Furthermore, encrypted communications using Warlord Krender's personal authentication code were sent during these exact time periods. Samuel highlighted the code sequences. And most damning of all, this same authentication code appears in the forged communication logs, supposedly linking me to the attack. For the logical Quantari, probability calculations appeared showing. The mathematical certainty of this being deliberate rather than coincidental. The evidence is clear, Samuel continued. The settlement on Theros 7 was attacked by cloaked Zelkari vessels under Warlord Krender's command. The victims were primarily political dissidents who opposed his military faction. I was framed to shift blame to humans and undermine the peace treaty. As he finished, the presentation condensed into a simple summary, tailored to each species' cognitive style. For all 17 tribunal members, the conclusion was the same. Samuel was innocent, and Krender was guilty. The Chief Justice stood. This is a most unusual defense, Commander Hayes. I have never seen information presented in such a manner before. He turned to the other tribunal members. We will now deliberate. Before they could leave, shouting erupted from the observation area. Krender had jumped to his feet. This is human trickery. Their visual deceptions mean nothing. But even as he spoke, several Zelkari officials were backing away from him. One of them, a female, approached a security officer and spoke urgently. Samuel recognized her from Frank's description. It had to be Syrah. The Chief Justice called for order. The tribunal will recess for deliberation. As the tribunal members filed out, Frank and Olivia approached Samuel. That was incredible, Olivia whispered. The way they were all watching each species engaged in their own way. It's not over yet, Samuel cautioned. They still have to reach a verdict. The wait was agonizing. Samuel, Frank, and Olivia sat in a small anteroom, too tense to speak much. After only 30 minutes, remarkably fast for a tribunal deliberation, they were called back. The chamber was even more crowded now. Word had spread throughout Harmonia Station about the unusual defense presentation. The Chief Justice stood, the other 16 tribunal members beside him. In the matter of Commander Samuel Hayes, this tribunal has reached a unanimous decision. Samuel held his breath. Based on the evidence presented, we find Commander Hayes not guilty of all charges. Relief flooded through Samuel. But the Chief Justice wasn't finished. Furthermore, this tribunal issues an immediate arrest warrant for Warlord Krender of the Zelkari Dominion on charges of mass murder and attempted perversion of justice. Guards were already moving toward Krender, who looked stunned. The Zelkari Warlord reached for a weapon, but security officers quickly subdued him. As Krender was led away, the Chief Justice addressed Samuel again. Commander Hayes, this tribunal offers its formal apology for your wrongful detention. You are free to go. Later, in the Earth Alliance Embassy section, Samuel, Frank, and Olivia celebrated their victory. Admiral Clark had joined them via holographic communication. Outstanding work, all of you, the Admiral said. The diplomatic corps is already calling your presentation the Hayes method. They want to adapt it for future interspecies communications. Samuel smiled. Who would have thought that PowerPoint would save my life and possibly prevent a war? Olivia raised her glass. To the power of clear communication. And to justice, Frank added, in any language. As they celebrated, Samuel thought about how close he had come to spending his life in the void cells. Instead, he was free, his name cleared, and he had helped expose a conspiracy that might have led to war. All thanks to a presentation tool that humans had been using for centuries now, evolved into something that could bridge the gap between 17 different ways of thinking. In the vast universe of diverse species and cultures, Perhaps the greatest human superpower wasn't strength or technology, but simply the ability to make themselves understood.